Here we are, and we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt episode 234. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned. We will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer.
And we are back. Big shout out to our sponsors, roofing.com, Lead Scout, Hook, and Roofle. Thank you guys for always staying consistent with us, and especially Tim Brown. Big shout out to Tim Brown out there, Hook Agency. He was an early adopter of ours and bought in right away as a sponsor. He's been a tried and true sponsor. We love Tim Brown. He was just on, I think it was last week. We were actually down at our Greenville location, but thank you, Tim, and thank you, Lead Scout Chris Hofstra and Mike Oldsteed and Travis Orvega, and of course Hunter Blue and the team over there, Diego Dante out there. Thank you guys. Big shout out to you guys. And today we have Chris Wolf with Wolf and Wolf, man. Hey, Chris, how are you today?
I'm stoked to be here, brother. I love your intro. Got me jazzed up.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. I love, Tim Brown wrote that. So actually somebody else, he did a contest and had somebody write him a jingle. And I think it might have been Diego that came up with that. I don't remember anymore. It's been a minute, but I love his enthusiasm when it comes to marketing and branding and things like that. And I always get a chuckle at it, to become a roofing rock star. I always think of that Cypress Hill song, rap.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I always think of that every time I hear that. So I'm glad you're familiar with that song too. It's one of my favorites. Definitely a classic. But yeah, Tim's a good dude, man, and it's always a hoot to have him on. We actually got to experience. We went on Eric O's Exhale retreat over in Cayman Island, where we got to go scuba diving together, and it was his and I's first experience scuba diving. We had to get certified before we went, and then we actually got our final certification, open water certification, when we got to Cayman. So that was definitely an interesting experience, and definitely stepping way outside both of our comfort zones going deep down into the bottom of the ocean, holding your breath when you're not supposed to. But that was definitely a wild experience, but learned and grew so much from it. So
That'd be two really crazy experiences for me to pick from: make a jingle or scuba dive. I'm kind of terrified of both.
yeah, right. Yeah, and John, our director of marketing and sales, actually wrote our jingle for us. That's his voice. He wrote it. He sang it, published it. You know, the whole shebang. He did a great job, and it's very catchy. We get a lot of people hating on it because like it's stuck in my head, and it's like, good, it worked. You know,
Right.
I'm going to bed. TC Backer. I was like, well, good. That's what we want. We wanted that. We plugged that in there on intentionally and on purpose to get that subliminal message sent out there. That sound waves. So, but yeah, it's all good stuff. And we learned, like we were talking earlier before we got on here, there's been a lot that we've learned when it comes to marketing, branding, podcasting, things like that. Why we got into podcasting, and most of our viewers already know. You know, we did this. We started down this path of podcasting because we didn't know how to get one of our local charitable events out there. We built these gazebos that we were auctioning off at a local home show. To get them auctioned off, and all proceeds would go to the Workforce Now program, which is a program that encourages students to get into the trades. And somebody suggested doing a Facebook Live, and we're like, "What is that?" You know, because 4 or 5 years ago, it was kind of like, yeah, there was Facebook Lives, but I don't think it was as prevalent, especially in our industry, as it was then as it is now. So it was kind of like, okay, so we had our iPhone 8 out there. Ooh, I'm tired with TC Backer. Come on down to the York Home and
Hold it
Garden.
with your arm.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And literally that's how this podcast got started. So we did that for several weeks up until the home show. And then we went live while we were at the home show, like, hey, come on down to the York Home and Garden Show and bid on these gazebos that's going for a great cause. And we realized quickly that we were reaching more people outside the walls of the home show than that were actually attending the home show at that time, because back then you could also host what was called a watch party, which the algorithms were different. Like we would have 5,000 viewers watching views. I mean, like it was insane. 5, 10, 15. It was nothing to have 20,000 views by the end of the week because everybody could share your watch party. And like it would just compound, and then all their friends on their feeds would see it. And it just was this huge morphing mushroom of this thing. Now, of course, things have changed a little bit. And if you can get 500 to 1,200 views, you know, within 3-4 days on your playbacks and stuff, that's, you know, you're doing pretty good. But that's just kind of how the algorithms are set up on social organically. Now you could pay to boost things, and that's something that we've chose not to do that. We've always went organic. Now, not stating that we didn't boost 1 or 2 of them just to kind of see what effect, and it definitely increased our viewership. But we like we were talking about earlier, it wasn't really, we didn't really care. We don't really care about like the quantity. We want to captivate the quality of viewership. Like we want to gain a following, and we want to impact just that one person that might be watching, that might be viewing, that might be listening to our podcast, and that maybe they can apply something in their life, whether it's their personal life, their professional life, and bringing guests on, you know, and giving them some exposure, or just sharing their experience, strength, and hope with our viewers that maybe have an impact and inspire them to get their ass off the couch and go out and make something of themselves and their life and their families, and how maybe they can 10x the quality of their lives.
I love that. I love it. I love what you guys have done. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's talk about you a little bit here. I'm done talking about myself. Not that I won't cut you off at some point in time and start talking about myself along the way here, but like, what is Wolf and Wolf? What do you guys do?
So Wolf and Wolf Construction, the base of it is a residential roofing and construction company I run with my wife. Everyone always asks me, they say, who's the other wolf? Is it your father or your brother? I love getting that question because they never see it coming. I'm like, oh, it's my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hashtag women in roofing. Here we go.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, been in construction for a while. This is this is my latest business over the last probably 7 to 10 years. But I've been in construction since about 20 years old, right? So Wolf and Wolf is our, local friendly neighborhood roofing contractor that we've gotten to this point built on the structure and the experiences, the failures and successes of all the stuff that led up to now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we do some sales consulting and some coaching for other contractors as well, because what I found in my journey is, what changed my life, and I don't know how far back you want to go, right? But what changed my life from deadbeat, dropout, reject, not doing anything, not going anywhere, no plans, right, was being able to sell construction projects to clients, and building that trust and building that relationship and getting people to say, yeah, we want your company or we want you to do this project. And all of a sudden, it feels like all of a sudden 16 years later, right, here we are, and people are like, where did you come from? How did you do this? And it was just like, I just got out there, man. I got lucky. I found this thing. I didn't grow up wanting to be a contractor. I don't know about you, right? But if you asked me, when I was yay tall, I wouldn't have been like, I'm going to be a roofer when I grow up, right? I was going to be a president, astronaut, all the regular stuff. But roofing is what saved my life. Mm-hmm. Now I have a wife, a family, a house, right? A business, multiple businesses that I own. And like, where did that all come from? It's because I learned how to sell to clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. How did, to go back a little bit, like, how did you find this industry, or how did this industry find you?
Yeah. So it was the summer when I was 20 years old, which, I got the gray in the beard now, right? So it's starting to be a while ago. Mm-hmm. But I struggled in high school. Regular education was not my jam. I ended up dropping out, actually, of high school. Got my GED, worked full-time for a while until I was 18. And then I did go to college, and I dropped out of college too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then my big plan, I was going to join the Navy and ship off and that didn't end up working out. And so here I am, freaking 20 years old, feeling like a complete failure, right? I'm supposed to go to college. Didn't make it in college, didn't even make it in high school. The Navy wasn't even that interested in me. I'll be honest, had some substance abuse issues probably back in the day, when I was a young man trying to figure out my life and what mattered, what I thought mattered versus what actually matters, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just grasping for straws. I was like, I'll take any minimum wage job I can. I need to figure out something. And I found this little company called College Pro Painters. And I was like, great. Well, I'm not in college, but I'm of the age. Maybe they'll hire me. And I got hired at the lowest level of the totem pole. I got brought in as a painter, grunt work, masking windows, moving ladders, back rolling for the guys that actually knew what they were doing, mm-hmm. and did that for a summer, did the labor, worked my way up. I got promoted to a crew lead, which I thought was a big deal back then. Here I am, me and two other guys painting houses, and the corporate, as a franchise system, corporate came up to me and said, hey, we see some potential in you, and do you want to interview to run your own franchise? And I was like, no, I don't. I have no interest in business. Like, I thought business was for these like loser types, It was a story I had in my head, which is funny because I was a loser. So it was really funny looking back on it that I was like judging other people that I thought were losers, when in fact, here I am, college dropout, high school dropout, no direction. I was living in my parents' guest room. Right? Like my bedroom had already been taken over by the time I moved back in with my parents. And, but I wanted to develop as a leader. I wanted to get better. So they got me in. I started selling. And that's when I was like, oh, something's changed. Mm-hmm. Something's changed. Something's different here. And I started selling. And, they give you the tools and they kick you out there. And, you're a college kid, right? They're like, knock on doors. Yeah. Get leads the hard way, right? Mm-hmm. Funny. I mean, if anyone's in sales right now, I don't know the last time you knocked on a door. It still works. Mm-hmm. It's not glamorous, but it still works, right? And I got into this program and I started selling, and I started selling more, and I started selling more, and all, and I had a lot of failures. Don't get me wrong. Heard a lot of no's. I don't know about anybody out here. I've heard a lot of no's, but luckily, through the no's and through I was so desperate, right? I was so tired of being a fucking loser. Pardon my language, right? But I was so tired of just, I didn't have anything going, and I got this one chance, this one company, and so I threw myself into it. I said, I don't care how many doors I have to knock. I don't care how many no's I get. Like, I'm going to brute force this thing. Even if I have a 5% close ratio, I'm going to brute force this thing. And luckily I closed more than 5%, right? But just getting punched in the face. But it turns out if you're willing to do the work and get developed on sales and get punched in the face enough times that you learn how to avoid getting punched in the face, that totally changed everything. By the end of the year, I was top rookie in North America. Year 2 came back, top 5 overall. They're trying to recruit me to do the corporate job and this and that and all that. And it all came back to the fact that I was hungry and I hustled and I was willing to do what it took to learn how to sell and to sell. Because it's the gateway of everything in construction, right? The guys can't work on projects if there's no projects to work on. Right? There's no customers until you make the customers. And, I came from a very dark place, but I was very hungry. And when I got the chance to eat, I just devoured.
Yeah. No, I get that. So you said a couple interesting things there, and you talked about like what mattered then and what matters now. And then you talked a lot about, or briefly touched on that paradigm shift. Let's maybe dive a little bit into that paradigm shift where it was like, okay, I'm sitting at a park bench and I don't know what to do with my life. And things aren't going, the Navy didn't even want me, which is pretty pathetic because they're always trying to recruit people. They probably would have taken me. You know what I mean? But when you were talking about that shift, like what moment happened in your life when that shift happened where it was like, I'm just, I'm a laborer on a paint crew, and I'm back painting, the guys that are more experienced than me, and then corporate came and you said no, like you weren't interested at that moment to be, an entrepreneur or a manager or a leader at that point in time was your first instinct. But like, what happened? Was there someone that you saw? Were you just sick and tired of being sick and tired? Like let's dive into that a little bit. Like what happened? What shifted? What made that shift happen?
Yeah, man, I can tell you exactly where I was. I was mowing my parents' lawn in the backyard. And this was a couple days after the Navy had been like, nah, we're good. So here I am. High school dropout, college dropout. The Navy doesn't want me. I'm living in my parents' guest bedroom, and I'm doing chores around the house just to kind of make even with them, right? I didn't even have any money to pay rent. No, so I'm mowing the lawn. It's like one of the chores I'm trying to do. And I remember I'm mowing the lawn. I'm thinking about everything. And I got the music playing in the headphones, and like halfway through the lawn, I'm like literally in the middle of the yard, like picture a big rectangle, half mowed, half not. And I just was so mad and so frustrated and so done with being a deadbeat. I just remember that was the moment. I just slammed the freaking lawnmower into the ground. I had the handle and I slammed it down. I was like, and I just started crying. And rage crying, and I'm not a guy that cries a lot. Most of us try to keep it pretty tight. And I was just so freaking done. I was like, this is not the life I want. And then an hour later, I got a call back on my application for College Pro Painters. And I was like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm done doing what I've been doing. And I'm going to the next thing, and I had no idea that it was even going to go the direction it did. Right. But I was just done. I guess the other moment that led into that lawnmower moment, probably a day before, I was sitting with my dad, and I'm lucky. I have a great relationship with my dad, but if you ever had to tell your parents something that they made them so disappointed in you, right? Where they just just look, I've got my drug problem. I got nothing going. And I could just see in my dad's face, he was just so disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Not even mad, right? That's the worst part. He's just like disappointed. Like, man, this is what my son has become.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck. Right. And then that kind of led to that lawnmower moment the next day. So then, when I got my chance, I was like, I don't know anything about construction. I don't know anything about paint. I don't know anything about selling paint jobs, but someone's given me a chance. I'm going to grab it with both hands and everything I have. And I'm going to give it everything I got. I'm going to empty the clip. I'm going to throw the gun. I'm going to throw myself. I'm going to do everything I can because I was just freaking done.
Yeah. 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 I think that power of disappointment can move. And I know for me and a lot of other people that I know, it's like that power of disappointment. Like when you actually finally have that aha moment where you can actually see the disappointment in other people's eyes, because I think leading up to that point, we're so selfish and self-centered, and it's about it. We're very feeling, living life day to day based upon how we feel and what we can do to make ourselves feel better, whether it's a substance or, not even really caring about like, that I'm sleeping on my parents' couch and not even really identifying the fact that considers me homeless, right? Like we don't even look at these things. We just know we got a bag of weed in our pocket. I got another $10. You know what I mean? So I can throw 5 of that.
I'm going to get a few more hours.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing for the next couple hours and I'll figure it out after that.
Right. And then it's like a bolt of lightning just like struck you like in that yard, in your parents' your family's yard with that lawnmower. Like there's got to be something better out there for me. And then sounds like what sealed the deal was like that disappointed look in your parents' eyes. Like they're beyond being mad, frustrated, and yelling. It's like now they're just like they're at their wits' end, and it's that disappointment and that aha moment. Like, okay. And then doors started to open up. Right. Like there's times that we need to like actually get off our dead ass and do something about it. And it's like, there's this higher power, this force, this act of providence. I think that so many of us are so blind to and don't identify, like I'm being given an opportunity here. And it was that phone call that were like, hey, we reviewed your application. We want to hire you. But you were humble enough to say, okay, it's not a managerial position. You're getting hired. I don't know where this is going to take me. I'm going to be hired as a laborer, but you toughed it out. Right. And I think that's a lot of the problem with the society today is that they're not willing to start at the ground level and work themselves up and prove themselves. And it sounds like you've really like proven yourself over time where like corporate actually identified like, hey man, this kid's a hustler. So when they approached you and you said, okay, yeah, what happened next? Like, did you open up your own franchise? Like, tell us the next little trajectory there for a little while. Like what happened then after you got the job, you were labor, corporate came out. What happened then when they approached you, after they approached you? What other doors were opening up? Oh, he might be frozen. At least he's got a decent. There you are.
Nope. Sorry about that. I think we're back.
Yeah, it's okay. At least you weren't frozen like this.
That's the worst, right?
Yeah, you actually looked pretty like you were listening to me.
Well, I was until it cut out. But yeah, I want to touch back on something you said. I think ego, right? And humility and being humbled.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was a cocky young little mofo. I thought I knew everything. I thought, going to parties and living the fast life was the key to everything. And I knew how to be happy and successful. And I didn't need to do the hard work because I had it all figured out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my ass humbled to the point where I was like, all right, I got to do something different. I got to take, and then, I was, it's really interesting what you said about being open to those doors, right? Seeing the possibility. And I think the difference for someone who's going to make a change in their life versus someone who's going to keep doing the same thing is someone who's like, I was going to grab it. Like it's really corny. There's that Eminem song, right? Lose yourself. You got one shot. Do not miss your chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it sounds so corny, right? But like, when you get a chance, you got to treat it like that. Like, this might be your only chance to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who say, I'm going to grab it, and I don't care how messy it looks or how stupid I look or what it's going to take for me to get there, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to hold on tight. Those are the people that are going to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it funny when you take half that energy that we use to be a bum, and if you can pivot that into forming positive energy, the amount that you can accomplish in such a short period of time, and I think that's something I don't think people can grasp that concept very often. It's like, I put in so much energy to keep a bag of weed in my pocket, or a 40 in my hand, and it's like, okay, if I can divert half that energy over here, to be a productive citizen of society and start having a positive impact on people's lives. Because let's face it, we're an anchor tied to people's asses. We're using and abusing our family, our friends. Nobody wants to hang out with us no more. And if they do, it's because they think I have something to offer them. And it's like we're using each other. That's kind of like it's a very transactional relationships over here. And it's like, once that paradigm shift happens, it's kind of like, I am smart. I am somebody. I can accomplish things, right? And when you have that kind of that aha moment, and someone gives you a second chance, whether they know that they gave you a second chance, I think that in itself is a humbling experience. But then that sends you on a trajectory of, at least for me, where it's like, okay, I've been down and out, but if I wasn't given that second chance, I wouldn't be where I'm at. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance that I've been given. So it's like almost like our moral obligation to give back what has been really so freely given to me. It was just an opportunity. It's like, it is now my job to give opportunities to other people that may not, have it so, or less fortunate, or just needs a break, like just needs someone to cut them a break. Okay. So corporate came, and what happened at that point in time? Corporate came, and did you stay with the painting company, or did you decide to like start your own painting business?
So I was young. I had no idea what I was doing. So I stayed in the family, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I got recruited to run a franchise, right? So I was a business owner, but in a franchise. It was safe. It was really safe, right?
Right. Yep.
And then I did that really well. I got promoted up to corporate, where I was then recruiting and coaching college students on running their own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all very safe, right? And I was feeling really good. Like, look how terrible my life was before. Look how good my life is now. This is awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you ever run into this. I kind of plateaued a little because I was happy in the safety.
Yep.
In being part of something. I knew it wasn't totally perfect. I didn't really want to be working in someone else's family, right? I wanted to get my own thing going for my family, right? And it took me probably another couple of years before I was like, you know what? I am capable. I am smart. I am passionate. I am a good leader. I am going to make this happen. And then I got kicked out of the nest a little bit and had to start flapping. And then I realized, oh, I'm flying. I'm flying, right? And so, and that's where I was like, let's do this, man. And so, I started learning the other trades. I got into roofing. No offense to any painters out there. I love painting. Painting was my first love. It'll always be by my heart. Painting's a tough business to make, all the money you've ever wanted to make in. Let's put it that way. And so I got into roofing. That became my main squeeze. Started learning all the other stuff, siding and windows and decks and all that. But the big thing for me was like, okay, I was in a terrible place. I got an opportunity. I hustled, I grinded, I got to a safe place. But then I was like a little too safe. And then I needed to kind of be pushed out of my comfort zone again to grind and move to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Wolf Construction, Wolf Consulting, all of that kind of came in. Because I was like, all right, the safety I needed the safety, right? Because I had been, such a bum. And I got to a place where I loved myself. I respected myself again. And then, how do we take it to the next level? Really, I want to be my own boss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What opportunity was given to you at that moment? Like, okay, you said you were pushed out. Like, so what do you mean? Like your parents kicked you out? Like, did the painting company say, okay, we're kind of done with you? Like what happened there when you got pushed out?
Yeah. So luckily I'd gotten to a good financial place. I wasn't living with the parents anymore. Right.
Mhm.
So, the finances were up, things were going good. But the painting company, so they're North American, Canada, and US,
Mhm.
and they were actually getting out of the US market.
Okay.
And so there was an opportunity to kind of stay on, keep doing the thing for a while. But it was like, all right, I can't run a student painting business forever.
Yeah.
I'm going from a young man to a real man, right? Met a woman, great woman, credible woman, better than I deserve, right?
Mhm.
And it was just kind of like an inflection point of like, do you want to keep clinging to the old past, or is it time to kind of shed that and go on to the next thing? And then, like you talked about earlier, those messages you would get,
Mhm.
I kept getting customers who were just like, hey, yeah, we want to hire you. We want to do, in like the first 3 months, I got all these customers. It was like one of my best booking stretches I've ever had.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was so connected with my purpose and
Mhm.
like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. And people loved it. They were like, yeah, dude, good for you. We want you to replace our roof. I
Mhm.
was like, cool. I want to replace your roof too. Let's do this.
Mhm.
Right. And it was terrifying. But it was like once I took that leap, I got so much positive response,
Yeah.
and I was used to that feeling of being uncomfortable from before when I got into construction, that like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think this is the right direction, and I'm going to work really hard and do my best I can for my clients and my people, and we'll see what happens. And I really reconnected with that energy, and it
Mhm.
just took off, man. It was like,
Yeah.
cool. God, universe, whatever you want to call it, something was like, Chris, this is the way. You can do this. And I was like, all right, I'm going.
Yeah. And it's so cool too. You talked about it a couple of times about, stepping outside your comfort zone. And I think we talked about that a little bit before we went live here. And it's like, that's where success happens. Like nothing good really happens on the couch where I'm all warm and snuggly with my favorite blanket and the dog's cuddled up on my lap, and I'm watching my favorite TV show. Like that's not where success happens. Success happens on the outside. They got to crack that door open and go and explore this area of your life where it's like, what, this is very uncomfortable to me. But it sounds like, you were willing to take that chance, take that risk, and due to stepping outside your comfort zone. We talk about this topic all the time, stepping outside your comfort zone. And it's just like going to learn how to scuba dive and all these things. And it's like how I've been able to apply this metaphorically and physically and virtually in my life. If I can learn how to scuba dive, there's not much I won't be able to accomplish in my life. And I'm sitting here thinking about like the history of your life in a nutshell that you explained to us was, it's like all those uncomfortable times. So it sounds like, the unfairness that we might have is that our threshold for pain is much higher than most entrepreneurs. Like the threshold for pain is much higher, and that willingness to take a risk, that willingness to step outside our comfort zone is really the differentiator between mediocrity and success. So having said that, what would you say was your scariest thing that you faced or challenge, even this far into your career? How did you overcome it, and what did you learn from it up until this point?
Well, I was listening to a spiritual guru a couple weeks ago, and he's talking about the idea of like your spiritual death, right? And like rebirth, right? I don't
Mm,
want to get too religious, but like, and it's non-denominational, right? But it's like the idea of like we have this ego and this idea of ourselves, and we're so worried about how people are going to take it or what it's going to look like in the world, and we almost have to like die. We have to kill that part of ourselves off and step into our new persona, right? And so I feel like the good news about all the struggle I went through with the drugs and the dropouts and the Navy didn't even like all that stuff, it really like kind of killed that part of me, right? And so when I went out to go from the big franchise company that I had some independence, but it was still a safe thing, and I went out on my own. The analogy that I use, cracking the door open, sure, I strapped some wings on and I started running towards the cliff. And I got to the edge of the cliff and I jumped.
mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'm either going to fly or I'm going to crash. But the good news, and that was terrifying, but the reason I was willing and able to do that is I wasn't scared of failure anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on it to when I was a young man and I was abusing substances and had all these unhealthy habits, I was terrified of failing. I was just terrified. I was like, no, I can't, right? And so then I just failed so badly as
Right.
like a human that luckily then I got into this new path. And then I was like, okay, what? So I'm going to run towards the cliff and I'm going to jump off. And if my wings don't work and I crash into the ground, well, then I'll just get back up
Mm-hmm.
and I'll do something else or I'll do it again. Right. And that's what I always tell people, how do you get so many sales? How do you learn so fast? Like, I just failed a lot more.
Yeah.
Like big picture failures, sure, right? But then in the business or in my profession, right? Didn't land that job because I missed XYZ. Boom, failure. Move on, learn from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a very scary moment to finally actually go out on my own and pursue my dream of running my own business. But I wasn't scared of failing anymore. And I knew even if I failed at running my business, it was going to help me somehow. And that's what I want people that's what I want everyone to know, right? Is failure is not the end of the process. Failure is part of the process. And even when you're super successful, even when you're TC backer and you've got all these locations and all this stuff going on, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to guess you make mistakes still, right?
100%.
Right. And that's just part of the deal. And, it's freeing, and it can be big failures. It can be little failures, but you're going to fail and you're going to move forward. And, luckily when I did jump off the cliff, my wings worked and I flew, but I didn't allow the fear to stop me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew if I crashed and burned, I would get back up again.
Yeah, no. And that's great too. And, cause failing's sitting there and you were talking about, you were a failure because and same with me. It's like, we weren't even attempting to try anything other than whatever our selfish motives were, right? Like to get high for the day or whoever we could mooch off of, so we weren't even attempting. Right. And then if we did attempt something, we quit it early before the miracle happened. Right. So, and that's failing in itself. It's like failing isn't, trying to achieve something and mistakes happening along the way. Like those mistakes are learning. That's a part of the learning process of bolting those wings on, jumping off the cliff, hitting the bottom, bouncing a few times, picking myself up, dusting myself off. Like, okay, maybe I should have ran back further, got a lot further running start. Maybe I should have jumped higher. Like now I got something now I got some matrix, right? Now I got some data. Now I got some information to learn from, and what can't be measured can't be scaled. But if I'm not even doing anything that could potentially even be measured, how am I supposed to scale this thing? Right. And it's like, with attempting these things, but like, don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens. Vic and I was just talking about like, we're doing the Fearless 44 together. And it's like, I accidentally forgot to do my live one night, but I've done every single thing else for the past 79 days. I've worked out for 79 days. 44 days wouldn't have got me where I'm at today. I needed those extra 41 days when I accidentally, I think it was day 38. I forgot to do my freaking live, right? Even though we went live on Wednesday, people were trying to co-sign my shit. Like, but you did your podcast. Yes, but it wasn't my intentional 2 minute live. But I didn't quit. There's a couple of things here. One, I didn't quit, right? I didn't see the results I wanted to see yet. And I knew 44 days wasn't going to be enough. So I said, Vic, hey man, Vic, come do the Fearless 44 with me. I need accountability, a partner here. That A, so I don't forget to do anything. And B, so, integrity wise, I'm doing everything, right? Because nobody really knows if I'm doing all this stuff, but I promise you 99% of it I've done for the past 79 days. I'm still not where I want to be. Does that mean in the next 3 days I'm going to quit? No. There's still certain aspects, still certain things that I want to learn that I got involved with in this past 79 days that I need to complete. That's going to take much longer. So we've done the 6 bricks. We didn't do the fulfillment 50 this time. We did the 6 bricks. So as I'm reviewing the 6 bricks, I'm all but like journaling, and I'm extending things out as the days go on. It's like I could just quit when my day 44, that's the last video. Hey, I'm done. No, that this is just the beginning of the journey. I'm just getting started because I myself have created the habit of the things that thank God, working out on a daily basis, eating right, getting to bed at a certain time, reading a certain amount of pages in a book. I'm not going to do the scrolling dial anymore. I probably won't do the 2 minute lies every day. I might still stick to that. But the thing is, what it's done for me, it has taught me one to all of these uncomfortable things and rearranging my schedule to make sure I get an hour workout in place, a 2 minute cold shower. These are things that I'm not going to ever stop doing. Why? Because I've done it long enough where I've actually started to see the results. Is it what I want them to be yet? No. But if I quit, I would fail. But if I continue down this journey, and I don't even know what that really looks like yet. But you know what? I'm enjoying it. I've gotten over that pain where I'm not sore every day and my back doesn't hurt. Like I've worked out enough where it's like, okay, if I'm not sore, then I didn't work out hard enough. Okay, so you're pain through pain, there's growth. So there's a lot of analogies and metaphors that how we can look at this, where it's like, if I quit, I failed. But if I continue down this path, and I may not be getting the results as quickly as I think that I should be getting, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I need to raise my hand and I need to ask for help, but I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. And in life and in business and in family and in health, all of those things, that's why people get out of shape. They give up. They gave up on themselves. They quit. They quit. They failed. Education, continuous education. I need to continue. I need to remain teachable, right? I don't want to quit. I don't want to be the dumbest guy in the room because I refuse to ask questions, right? The smartest guy in the room is the guy raising his hand. I don't care what anybody says, because there's somebody else in that room that also doesn't know the answer to that question. Okay. If I
addict, right? Oh,
yeah.
I had one relapse. I'm effed. I'm
Yes.
done with being clean. I'm screwed forever.
We just said the same thing. You know what I mean? When I was on that journey I was a couple Fearless 44s ago, I was attempting to stop smoking cigarettes. And I had this great idea that I would smoke one less cigarette every single day. So then by day 22, I was going to quit. That was it. I was done. Well, guess what? I smoked a cigarette on day 23, and I was just devastated. I mean, I was devastated. I couldn't quit. It was maybe it would work for other people, but that process didn't work for me. I actually ended up starting over again, and everybody was like, dude, but you're quitting. Did you like give up and like go out and buy another pack of cigarettes? I was like, no. They're like, but that you're quitting. Like, don't give up. I did end up starting over. I don't know if that was ego, like, or pride. Like, I need to start this thing over because I'm cool. I don't know what it was at the time. This was probably 2 years ago in Utah. We were in Utah on the road, which made it even worse. But I did, you know what? Eventually I quit smoking cigarettes. Like, I never gave up. Like, I knew I needed to stop smoking cigarettes. It's a horrible habit that I picked up back in my youth, of all the other bad habits that I picked up. That was just one vice that I held on to over the years that I thought, I'm just not. I quit drinking. I quit smoking weed. I stopped all these things. I just, I'm not ready yet. I haven't suffered enough consequences. And that's what started going through my mind, that I didn't start experiencing any consequences other than bad breath. I smelled like cigarettes, which was enough consequences. Like, I didn't want to have to be, suffer from emphysema, carrying around an iron lung and those things, because being a knucklehead like me, like, I need to experience enough pain before I get off my dead ass and do something about it. And I just didn't want cigarettes to be that scenario, that case. I did not want to like experience something really detrimental to my health. It was like, okay, now it's a good idea to stop smoking cigarettes. But I stayed to it. I stayed true. I was like, you know what, we're going to stop. I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes. And I applied some principles that I apply in other areas of my life to stop smoking cigarettes. I applied those same principles that worked in every other facet of my life. Why wouldn't it work in this facet of my life? I just need to take it one day at a time. If I smoke one less cigarette than I did yesterday, right? Or if I smoke one less pack this week than I did last week, that's an improvement, right? Just one pack a day, right? One cigarette a day. However, metaphorically, I wanted to look at that. I just wanted to smoke one less cigarette today than I did yesterday.
Well, and something that you said that resonated with me multiple times there is the standard you hold yourself to.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're talking about like with the live stream, people were trying to be like, oh no, man, you're covered because XYZ and it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, with like the cigarettes, people, oh, but you know, and I think what's really crucial for anyone in any endeavor is what standard are you going to hold yourself to?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's when you're going to start to say, okay, this is different. I've been
Mm-hmm.
holding myself here, but now I'm going to hold myself here. And that's just what it is. Even if someone else says I'm off the hook, I know I'm not off the hook. I can do better. I will do better.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let's get back to like you were talking about like what mattered then to what matters now. We've heard kind of like what mattered. We both talked about like kind of what mattered to us back in the day. So what matters to you today, man?
Well, the first thing that matters to me is gratitude and being grateful, right?
Mhm.
Because everything stems from that. I'm grateful for the success I've had. I'm grateful for the people that have helped me. I'm grateful for the clients that have chosen us, right? I'm grateful for the woman who said, yeah, I trust you with the rest of my life. Let's do this, right? And I was like, when I was young, I had no concept of gratitude. I thought that was some hippie shit that old guys talked about. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, gratitude to me when I was 20 was, I got my new bag of drugs. Woohoo! You know, that was gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude now is, how do I put this? Gratitude now is a place of like action.
Mm.
You know, I'm grateful that I have this job in my community, that my neighbor can call me and say, hey, my roof's leaking. I need your help. Can you come fix it? I'm grateful that I have purpose. I'm grateful that I have a family. You know, like I used to think Friday nights and Saturday nights were the most important nights of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But now Friday night and Saturday night are the most important parts of the week because those are the nights that my kids get to stay up after bedtime because there's no school tomorrow. And we can cuddle and watch movies and stuff. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for my job that I can actually, you know, like build roofs for people or teach other contractors how to sell better so that they can have better lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it sounds so corny. One of the things I've heard you say a bunch of times, right, is give it away. Give it away. You know, I was never giving anything away when I was younger and in a different place. I wanted everything for me. I wanted it for me. I wanted my success, my money, my party, my happiness. And it was actually something that Zig Ziglar said. Rest in peace, the legend, Zig Ziglar.
Mm-hmm.
You give enough, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. And the first time I heard that, I was like, no, that's ridiculous. What does that even mean? Right.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as I've mentored more people and coached more people and helped out in the community, and maybe this lady can't afford a roof, but she really needs one. So let's get creative. What can we do? Right. Maybe we get Owens Corning to donate some shingles. You know, maybe we get the guys to do a big work party on the weekend. Right. Like whatever. I just realized there's so much more depth to life when you're living for a purpose. When I'm here to help. I'm here for my family. You know, spirituality can be a big part of that for people, right? I feel very connected to like my place in the universe, but it all comes back to gratitude. I had no gratitude before, and now I live with gratitude, and I'm happier than I've ever been, even when bad shit happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get a tough customer that's just really taking you through the ringer and holding you to an unbelievably high standard that's way worse than anybody else, right? I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that customer that they still chose us. I'm grateful that they're showing us how we can get better, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was just a context I never had before.
Yeah, that's great. Let me ask you a personal question here. Do you think that you are so caring and open-hearted and give it away because of your past history and that you feel like deep down inside that you may owe a debt to society or to the universe?
Yeah, I owe a debt that can never be repaid. I mean, it's really hard to, I mean, you understand, right? But it's hard to explain to people like how much of a loser I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought about suicide necessarily, but it was like just because I was too selfish. You know, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I have all this stuff to live for. You know, my life was like this black hole.
Yeah.
And someone gave me a chance at the right time, and I was ready for it, and I grabbed it. And ever since then, I've been trying to give that chance back to the next guy because it's so rare, right? Well, it's actually, it's not, the chances aren't rare. What's rare is our ability to see them and grasp them. Because there's a lot of chances. There's a lot of companies. There's a lot of people, right? But yeah, I mean, if you would, I was just talking about it, it's Father's Day, right? It just happened, Father's Day weekend. I took my dad. I took my old man out to a Brazilian steakhouse, all you can eat. So don't worry about it, Pops. Get anything you want. Get the extras. Buy some, you know, get a drink for yourself. Whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Midway through the meal, he looked at me and said, man, 15 years ago, do you think would you have ever thought you'd be taking me out to an all-you-can-eat meal where you don't even care what the bill is?
Yeah. Love that. I love that. I do. You said so many good things there, and thank you for answering that question, because my dad and I are closer than we have ever been over the past 15 years. And I too put my family through the ringer, right? And it's nice to be able to give back to them, right? Even when they weren't expecting it at all. You know, it's like, no, I got this. I'll take care of it. Or just being responsible for them. Like if they call me, they know I'm going to answer the phone. If I don't, I'll call them back. And if they ask me to do something, they know that I'll actually show up to do it, or it will be handled today. And it's such a freeing feeling. And that's where our gratitude is today. Like I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to play it forward back for them, you know, because we know that we went to it. And the meaning of gratitude, I love how you touched on how it's different today than it was back then. And it takes a certain, we would only have to experience what we've experienced in order to really fully understand and grasp the differences between grateful, like the small, simple, stupid things that we were grateful for, you know, back then, and thought we were balling. Hey, I got a place to sleep tonight. It didn't matter where, but I'm warm and I got food in my belly. Like, right.
Yeah, I
like,
convinced a girl to come home with me. Look at me. Yeah. Like,
yes.
It's such low grade shit.
Yeah. Petty, low grade, 1-star shit. Right. You know what I mean? And then today, the 5-star life that we try to live today, and the 5-star quality of gratitude. Right. And I love how you touched on, you know, it's an action word. Gratitude is a verb, right? Like we have to, you know, show our gratitude for first and foremost, right? Like we have to show those that gave us the second chances, like, hey, we're grateful, and we have to play it forward, right? Because I don't think anything really necessarily happens by mistake or accident. For some reason, for whatever reason, you know, I've been given a second opportunity, right? Like have been given that extended warranty, right? Like they've given. So what am I going to do with that? Am I going to show my gratitude with it, or am I going to piss it away, right? Like I have to identify, like, okay, I've been given a second chance. I've been given another opportunity. I've been given that extended warranty. Am I going to take advantage of that in a positive light and have an impact, a positive impact on people's lives, right? Whether it's your sales, you know, training that you have, or am I going to, you know, help my family when they need? I had the opportunity to have my mom live with us right up to the day she died. She died in our house, right? Sober. I was sober, right? She saw me her last day. She was with us. I was sober, right? Well, how grateful am I for that today? If I would have been out running and gunning, I wouldn't have had a house to live in, or a pot to piss in, or a window to throw it out of, right? The miracles, the magic, the blessings that I've received today, I can't take that for granted. Okay. I'm on borrowed time. I know that life is short. She told me that life is short. And I've witnessed it with my own eyes. Right. So am I going to be negative? Right. Am I going to spew my negativity all over everybody? Am I going to spew my gratitude all over everybody? And they don't have to know what I'm grateful for. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to spread the love. I'm going to spread the joy. I'm going to spread my experience, strength, and hope with you. And here's my hand. If you need it, here, let's get up. Let's do this. Let's walk this path together, right? This is what I've learned over the years. You don't have to live like that. And guess what? You don't have to go through it by yourself either. No matter what it is. It could be depression. It could be drug addiction. It could be just, you know, down on my luck. I lost my job. It doesn't, you don't have, your bottoms don't have to be as low as my bottom was. You can get off that elevator on any single floor on the way down. that you choose to get off of. You don't have to hit the bottom like I actually literally hit the bottom. My bottom was a jail cell floor. Now, everybody's doesn't have to be that. I was running and gunning, drinking. Drinking was my big thing. I loved the party. And I got in a lot of trouble when I was allergic to it. Every time I drank, I broke out in handcuffs. And I didn't know where I was going to end up. I had no idea where I was going to go, but that's just how I live. But all of that negativity that I spewed and that unmanageability, like I'm grateful for the control and the manageability that I have in my life today. And we have to give this thing away to keep it, right? And that's the knowledge. Like
so counterintuitive.
Right. Like all of these things. I met you at a conference a couple of years ago. Okay. So all of these self-help things that I've done over the years. Okay. Was I doing that for myself? Am I applying these things? And am I sharing those things with other people? Right. It's one thing to read a book, right? It's one thing to go to conferences. It's one thing to go to retreats. One thing to listen to podcasts, watch these YouTube videos. But if I'm not actually like, applying these things in my life, and if I'm not, if I am applying these things in my life and they're working in my life, am I sharing this knowledge with other people? Because if I died today, what good would it have been to anyone else if I wasn't teaching what I have been taught? Right. And that's the way that I look at it. It's like we have baby boomers that work for us, and we intentionally paired them with people that have no experience, young kids right out of high school. And because if they would die today, that trade, the trade that they know, the expertise that they know in the field that they're in, okay, if they died today, what good would it be for the next generations? Like whether we're grooming the next generation of leaderships, whether we're grooming the next crew leader, whether we're grooming the next, CEO of McDonald's to go out and have their own franchise chain of whatever, whether they come, and that's the thing. That's how this thing has been designed. Life is designed for us to give away what has been so freely given us. That's opportunity was free. The opportunities that didn't cost me a thing. Those doors that were open for me didn't cost me a thing. Those second chances that people gave me, it may have cost them, right? But they did it and didn't know it. It probably came back 10x for them. And you'll never see a super successful person. And success isn't always monetarily. Okay. Success.
Way more to success than money. Absolutely.
Yeah, big time. You'll never see someone that's full of gratitude downgrade anyone else. That's the bottom line. And a grateful drunk won't ever drink.
Well, and you won't. So for me, when I was abusing drugs, a lot of it was I felt sad. I felt unhappy, and I was using substances to escape, right? Or when you're in a tough spot at work, right? And you're feeling certain feelings. But if you're grateful, those feelings don't even come.
No.
If you're grateful to have a job, you're not going to want to quit.
Mm-mm.
If you're grateful to be alive, you're not going to feel like, I need to go drink my sorrows away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you can be present to that.
Yeah, man. No, that's good stuff. Before we wrap this up, man, I got another question for you about it could pertain to life, it could pertain to business, but what advice would you give someone starting out, whether it's in the roofing business, or I guess let's go with the roofing business. What advice would you give someone starting out in business in general?
Oh man. You got another hour?
Yeah.
If I could put it in one, I mean, it's like what we talked about earlier with the failure.
Yeah.
Fail forward, fail often. And don't, like you said, it's only really a failure if you quit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you stick with it, and you keep going, and you keep fighting, and you keep learning, and you keep going, eventually you're going to look up 15, 16 years from now, and you're going to be making however many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with your amazing partner and your amazing house, and you're going to be a guest on Beyond the ToolBelt, and you're going to be like, how the hell did I get here? Mm-hmm. Because that's all it is. That's life, right? Is commit, work, be grateful, keep working, learn your lessons, stick with it.
Yeah. Stay consistent.
Yep.
Stay consistent. That's so good.
Embrace that failure as learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Look for the opportunities that failure had created for you, the eye-opening, experience that you got to witness, right? Because I that's how you got to look at things. Like when that door closes, just know two more doors will be opened up for you. So no, that's great. That's a great way to wrap up this episode of Behind the Tool Belt. Chris, we'll have to get you back on here in a couple months. We'll get you back on the show. Let me know when you get your podcast up and running, man. I'd love to be a guest on your podcast as
That'd be
well.
great.
And we can share it to our virtual stages as well, and help promote what it is that you're trying to do for our industry, the changes that you're trying to make, and leaving it better than it was where you found it. And I know that's what you're about, and that's what I love about you. That's what gravitated to Jana and I to you when we first met you. I think officially introduced each other was at lunch. I think it might have been 2 years ago at the couples retreat. I think was the first time that Jana and I met you and your lovely wife, and give her a hug and a kiss, man, and don't ever forget where you come from, bum. And remain humble. Everybody out there, remain humble, and also thank you for tuning in on your lunch break, if that's what you're doing today, and get out and enjoy the wonderful weather of the summertime that we're experiencing, at least over here on the East Coast. And don't forget to like, love, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, Behind the Tool Belt, Spotify, Google, and Apple Play. Until then, we will see you guys next week for episode 235. We will have R.D. Saunders with the Maxwell Group. We'll be on the show next week, so don't forget to tune in next week. And we appreciate everybody. Until then, stay tuned.
Adios.